Students not practicing? This is the number one gripe I hear from piano teachers, and there is a solution. Hey, I'm Nicola from Colourful Keys and Vibrant Music Teaching, and I have the answers you've been looking for. Sort of. The trick, the secret to teaching students who don't practice is to stop treating them as if they practice. So many of us do this without thinking about it, and there is an alternative. You can teach these students and accept the fact that they do not practice. So first off, don't yell at me. I'm not telling you shouldn't try and get your students to practice. You should talk to them about it. You should educate your parents about it thoroughly. You should talk to them about it at the first meeting you have with them and explain how things work. You should reinforce that with emails and follow up with them, help them troubleshoot. You should support them in any way you can to help them practice. But when you've done all of that, and they are just not practicing because home life is too hectic, you don't have the parental support, whatever other reason, they're not practicing. Let's accept it and move on. Because if you're not going to fire your student, then you have to come up with a different solution so that you're not just taking that student into your studio, acting as if they should have practiced and oh no they didn't, and reinforcing the same thing, repeating Groundhog Day style what you did last week, and then sending them on their way, knowing that they're not going to practice this week and you're going to do the same thing next week. That is miserable for you, it's miserable for them, and no one is learning anything from the situation. That's never in the history of the world, as far as I know, made a student practice. So, if you were to stop planning lessons based on home practice happening, what would that look like? Imagine you had been hired by this parent to give their child a weekly musical experience that's centered around the piano or whatever your instrument is. Imagine that was what your job description was. You would stop expecting the same level of progress, yes, but you would also find a way to have fun and make it enjoyable and rewarding within that weekly lesson. So what would you do during that time? What can you do with this student who is not practicing? You'd stop mentioning practice, because that wasn't part of the equation anyway, and you'd start improvising with them every week. Playing duets together, sight reading them. If they have a bit of reading skills, pick something at their sight reading level and sight read through the duets together. Maybe you'd work on one piece in a traditional way, doing a bit of practice on it in the lesson each week. It would have to be at a level that's going to be approachable for that student, even though they're not practicing. So it's going to need to be an easier standard than you might otherwise expect. But you can make progress on pieces like this in this way. And I know because I've done it with students. You would also maybe work songs out by ear together in the lesson so that you're doing that work, you're developing their ear through figuring out their favorite songs. Maybe you would compose pieces. All of this can be done without practice happening at home. You treat it as a sort of project-based lesson, or fill in these different categories in different ways. And I promise you can enjoy teaching those students. They can learn something. They just won't make as much progress in terms of repertoire as you're used to with your other students. So, do you agree or do you disagree? Would you prefer to just fire these students? That's not my approach, but I'm happy to chat it out in the comments. Let me know your thoughts below.